There's no law on that issue. What the law is in the Constitution, and that is the House, the State House of Representatives who are here in the Capitol in Austin right now. They do have the ability to issue a call to have their fellow members who are not showing up to be arrested.
That's Governor Greg Abbott, and that's exactly what Republicans did yesterday. That singing, of course, was the Texas Democrats. It's such a struggle for them to stay on pitch. They should be arrested for noise pollution and butchering We Shall Overcome. Well, listen, it's all well and good for Republican lawmakers to say arrest these Democrats, but then who's going to actually do it and carry it out? Well, we got that guy. He's the Attorney General. He's there to enforce the laws of the state of Texas. He is Ken Paxton. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad rendition of We Shall Overcome. I think just for that alone, just quit.
That is a crime against humanity. Listen, please tell me you're sending Texas Ranger Chuck Norris up here to take care of this problem, right? You can do that?
You know, I did call Chuck. He's out of the state, but I think we're going to call him back in. We need him.
So I guess the law is that you have no jurisdiction outside of the state of Texas, so it's not like you can send someone here to round these people up. But do you intend, when they arrive in Texas, do you intend to actually arrest them and carry this out?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's actually under the governor's authority to have the Texas State Police arrest them as soon as they step on Texas soil. So we went through this back in 2003. The Democrats didn't want to do redistricting. I was in the Texas House. They went to Oklahoma, and they stayed there for a month, and then the Texas Senate took off for about 4 months, and we just kept the governor at the time was Governor Perry. He kept calling them back, and eventually when they stepped onto the soil, we had the vote, and we got redistricting done.
And Attorney General, first off, I want to apologize for subjecting you to that rendition of We Shall Overcome. Larry has subjected it to me multiple times this morning, and I'm about to walk out on the job.
If I had known I was going to hear that again, I would have probably just not come on. I don't think
you can't deny it's the news. For crying out loud. We're all about the news.
Please.
No, but more seriously, I do want to know, if you proceed and do arrest them, what comes next? Where do they go? Do they actually go to jail? What happens?
No. So they actually are brought to the Texas Capitol. These are House members. They would be taken to the Texas House. And the way it worked when I was in the House is, and it's kind of odd. I mean, we were the ones that stayed. We were locked into the House waiting for them to come. And when they came, then they were locked in, and we voted. So it's really to get them back to do their constitutional duty and to represent the state the way they're supposed to. Because part of the frustration of this is they're basically making a decision for all the other members of the House and the Senate. They don't have the ability to stop the vote. They're a minority, and they are taking control of the process illegally.
So Attorney General Ken Paxton is our guest of Texas. Let's get to the crux of this, because they're claiming that these new laws that are being passed in Texas, or that they're hoping to pass in Texas, having to do with photo ID and shoring up some of the concerns that many people have in Texas about the way the election went last time around and make sure that there's no fraud. They say, number one, it's Jim Crow, that it's the worst thing since the Civil War, as we heard from the president yesterday. They also say, Mr. Attorney General, it's unnecessary because there is no evidence of fraud. Well, if there is, you would know because you're the Attorney General. So why don't you address all of that?
So everything they say is false. It's just made up stuff. It's pejorative, thrown out. The reality is I do prosecute voter fraud. We have over 500 counts waiting to be heard by the courts. It's been slowed down by the whole COVID issue. And we have over 300 other investigations. We've got more voter fraud being investigated, potentially prosecuted right now than we've had in the entire history of our unit. So this idea that there's no voter fraud, in every article I read, I see that line. There is no proof of voter fraud. And yet there is lots of proof. We have prosecuted it. We have evidence of it. We have convicted people. There is voter fraud.
And have you ever dealt with a situation like this where lawmakers have actually fled the state? And what you explain will happen next is interesting, because I can't think of any other area in law enforcement where you have the ability to place American citizens, move them from one location to another, in this case, physically place them in the Capitol, correct?
Yes. And so, I went through this when I was in the House in 2003. It's immensely frustrating because as a member of the Texas House, I'm making $600 a month doing basically volunteering. and I've left my job, I've left my family, and I'm down there waiting to do my representative duty, representing my constituents, and then to have them thwart my obligation and my role and really my vote, I think is really more Jim Crow than what they're claiming we're doing. What we're doing is just trying to prevent fraud.
Yeah. There's also something incredibly un-Texan about this. First of all, running from a fight. And even worse, I mean, it's one thing to run to Oklahoma. At least they've got Brahms cheeseburgers up there, right? But they ran to Washington, D.C. and begged the federal government to override your state's laws. This can't be going down well with the Texans.
No, it's, voter ID and what protecting against voter fraud is an 80% polling issue. It should be. Because if our elections are not fair, if people can't trust them, which is what the federal government is trying to pass, they're trying to eliminate all of our laws that protect against that, including voter ID and stopping felons from voting and voter harvesting. Anything that could be done to protect against voter fraud, the federal government wants to pass a law saying you can't do that. And the Texas Democrats want that to happen. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, I'll say. So what is the end game here? What do you think the timing is on this, Mr. Attorney General?
So it's pretty frustrating because the timing is kind of up to them. They could stay up there, I guess, for months and months. Eventually,
God, no.
if they don't show up, I don't know why their offices wouldn't be considered at some point vacated.
Yeah,
and the governor calls a special election. We elect people that actually want to do their job. Come in and fight for what you believe in. And if you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. That's the way the process has always worked in this country. It shouldn't be controlled by a few people who can just run away.
One last question. Governor Abbott said that they flew up there on the taxpayer's dime. There's other people who say, no, this came from political contributions. This should be an easy thing to figure out, and they should be able to tell us who paid for those chartered flights. Do we have that answer? Do you know?
No, we don't have the answer. They're supposed to, at some point, they have to disclose who paid for that. But it's months down the road. They ought to just tell us right now who paid for it. I have no idea. And my guess is that some liberal group or the DNC funded it. Yeah. Sure be nice for us to know that, but they're not very much about transparency either.
Well, my understanding is they might be leaving D.C. and going to L.A. to audition for America's Got Talent. They're a singing group, obviously, and they're very excited about
Please stop.
Their next. You could use this in the prison system there in Texas. This could be some sort of punishment, right? This would prevent crime.
Torture.
All right. That's true. It is. I believe that there is a constitutional amendment. We could use this in Gitmo, though, I think. Attorney General Ken Paxton, always good to talk to you, sir. Thanks for joining us. Good luck with this one.
Yeah, thanks. You guys have a great day.